All right, welcome back to the Amato Report. As we all know, one of the most difficult things in society for military veterans is transitioning from the military sector to the private sector. Transitioning in life can be difficult and challenging for anyone if they're not properly prepared, and the same goes for military veterans. My next guest has some expert advice on that very topic. He is a technologist, a strategic business development developer specializing in aerospace defense as well as national security. Let me welcome, first time on the show, Dan Goodwin. Dan, good to have you with us.
Hey, thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me.
So, transitioning from the military to the private sector or the commercial sector, um, what advice do you have for those men and women out there going through that?
Well, I think you find that the one of the challenges is the when we talk about this in public, we tend to think of the military veteran as somewhat monolithic, as if we're all the same coming out of the military, and frankly, we're not. We're just as disparate, just as different as we would be as the commercial sector in applying. An Air Force pilot is not going to be the same as an Army infantry, soldier. They're going to have different skill sets coming out. Now, would be remiss in not saying that I think that one of the things the military does well is we get leadership opportunities at very young ages, much younger than you would say in the commercial sector. So you're getting folks with a higher level of emotional intelligence and a higher level of leadership. But the challenge, I think, is, you know, we spend our times in the military in a very structured environment and you kind of know what's coming next. When you get out of the commercial world, things are very different. It's not as easy. And I have a funny story about my transition. As I got out and I went to work for a small technology company, and we were supporting one of the big defense primes building a drone, and they were having problems with our product. And we kept sending it back and forth. They had problems, and they were in the field, and they had a must-win competition that they had to get to, and we had another problem. I loaded up an engineer, a box of tools, and a bunch of other stuff in my car, and we got on the road to China Lake, California. About three-quarters of the way there, I get a phone call from the owner of the company. Hey, Dan, where are you? Oh, I'm going to China Lake to fix this. He goes, who's with you? The engineer. Who told you could do that? Well, and then I realized what I'd done. He said, hey, this isn't the Marine Corps anymore. I'm paying the bills. I own the liability. You're doing the right thing, but you got to let me know. And I think that can-do attitude is great in the military, but sometimes you got to temper it with the bosses in a different mode, when you get out. But that's one of my first lessons when I got out.
That's a good example. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Uh, what are some of the key stages, key points that you'd like to articulate to those veterans out there watching right now?
Well, again, as you talk about the different folks in the military, there's the young enlisted, folks, people who are early on in their careers.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, for right or for wrong, they've spent their 4 years under the regiment of military, and they're just looking to get out. And so they're not thinking about this. So those are the folks that really, they get through their transition program and they're just worried about benefits, education. And I used to get very frustrated at how many of my Marines would leave without a plan. And I was always emphasizing, hey, I'm not going to, I'd love you to stay in, but if you're going to get out, let's figure out and make sure you have a plan. So I think, for all folks at all levels, this planning needs to start sooner. And, as a service, we kind of wait till the last minute. We give some lip service at transition programs, but that planning needs to start much, much sooner. And especially the more senior level of the role that you want to achieve when you get out of the military, the more this idea of networking. We talk about networking all the time, but it really is important. You need to let people know that you are transitioning and that you're looking to get a role in the commercial sector. You also need to do your research, just like you wouldn't get into a tank without studying all the manuals. You shouldn't be going into a job without, doing your research. And that research is, calling folks, getting on the phone, getting on LinkedIn, and trying to get what we call informational interviews to go, hey, Rick, I'd like to get into your field. Would you spend 15, 20 minutes with me and just let me know, what you think, how you did it, and give me some insight into how to do these things. And I think that's kind of step one is do your research
Yeah.
early.
Do your research early. How difficult is that? And what I mean is, for a lot of people, it's difficult to be focused on one thing in the military and then dividing your mind and your time and managing it properly to be outside that sphere for preparation.
Yeah, it's difficult. I tell folks that I mentor that, hey, this is your second job, and for the next 6 or 7 months, you're going to have to, have a second, the mindset that you have a second job. I think the other difficulty is um, the military's not, we're not used to bragging about ourselves. So, and we're not used to necessarily getting on the phone and talk, especially the younger folks, we're not used to getting on the phone or getting on, email and talking about ourselves and really asking the
Right.
right questions. It's hard to get introduced. So again, that's where, the network comes into play. Can you find somebody who was ahead of you by a couple years and you can reach out to them? And I always talk about, my Maslow's hierarchy of military transition. Was there another Marine or someone from your service that got out that start there, or service academy grads always have a built-in network. Who can you find that's made that transition, who can make those handoffs and start to connect you? And that's how I kind of start my process, but it is difficult. It's difficult to reach out to folks that you don't know or don't know well and say, hey, can I get 10, 15 minutes of your time? But that's why I say that 10, 15-minute number is really important, because if I just ask you for an open-ended engagement, you're less likely to agree. But if I bind it
Hmm.
by a short period of time, that's kind of one of the secret sauces is, hey, 10, 15 minutes, and then be disciplined and let the 10, 15-minute mark set your watch and go, hey, Rick, it's been a great conversation. I want to be respectful of your time. I'll let you go. And if they want to keep going, that's on their decision. But I think those are some of the techniques that I recommend.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and so someone is going to have to manage their time properly to be able to sit down and figure out who do I want to start networking with, and perhaps go online and Google their interests, sort of thing. Correct?
That's right. And it's really tough when you're still trying to manage an active duty career because you don't have time during the workday typically to make these calls. So, it may have to be asynchronous and via email, or it may have to be, you get a long lunch break and you do it then. But yeah, it is not tough for sure.
Yeah. Dan, where you have a website our viewers can go to?
I don't. I do this on my own. I mean, I work with a couple of organizations, but there's plenty of organizations out there that do that. American Corporate Partners is one of them that I work with, but my LinkedIn profile is open and you can find me there.
All right. Well, Dan Goodwin, it's an important topic. One you don't hear much about in the media. And we appreciate you joining us and look forward to having you back.
Great. Thanks, Rick. Thanks very much.
There's Dan Goodwin, technologist and strategic business development developer specializing in aerospace, defense, and national security, with key advice for those military veterans who are looking to transition. Back after this.